Bonsoir et bienvenue à tout le monde. The rest of this will be in English. I wish I had the time to translate it all, but that takes twice as long. Thank you all for coming to the very first of the virtual road shows for Fort Worth Sister Cities. Each month, one of Fort Worth Sister Cities will be featured virtually. All will be able to learn more about the cultures of our 9 sister cities, which, you know, 9 sister cities is a lot. And Fort Worth has, you know, won awards several years in the running. So we are very proud of our Fort Worth sister cities. Nimes is the newest sister city. We signed in 2019. And so we thought we'd start with this one. And it was just before COVID hit, we were able to take the inaugural trip to Nimes, which was absolutely amazing. There were about 50 of us, 45 of us, and our timing was perfect because the whole world shut down immediately after that. So I was I had the great pleasure of being the first chair of the Nimes committee, but our current chair, Marie-Hélène Hill, is in Tucson, Arizona, and she was not able to get back because of bad weather, but she sends her greetings and regrets for not being able to be here. So we are going to have a great time tonight hearing from Fort Worth musical treasure, Jenny Mack. She'll be on in just a minute. She's going to share her knowledge and talents about Texas and French blues and swing and their influences on one another. I'm also very happy to introduce to everyone the new Honorary Consul General from France, Monsieur François Fournier. He's here with us this evening. And Mr. Fournier, I'd like to allow you to spend a little time talking about yourself.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. Bonsoir. That will be my only word in French. It's a really nice surprise because first, thanks to Beth for the invitation. And it was a very nice surprise to see Rachel because we have known each other for about 13 years, exactly at the time where I came to the US. I think you understand that I was born and raised in France. I will never get rid of my accent. And I lived across the world before coming to the US. So I lived in Asia for many years, in China, in Indonesia, Singapore. And I spent also many years in Germany and Switzerland. And so with my wife, we came about 13 years ago to the US. For the one living in Fort Worth, I have a lot of ties with the city. It's a bit funny because first, for the one knowing Fort Worth, there is a street named Fournier. There is a Fournier Street close to downtown. So I'm very proud. It's not a street for me, but at least I can say that there is a Fournier Street. Second, and Rachel mentioned the sister city Nimes that you have. And funny enough, the mayor of Nimes, his name is Jean-Paul Fournier. Nothing to do with me, but that's the second ties I have with the city. But more important, I know the city very well because when I came to the US, I was first the president of a company named Galderma, which was the leader in dermatology. If you know Cetaphil as a product, it's a cleanser and moisturizer. It was one of our products, and it was the biggest company in dermatology in the world. And the headquarters for the US was in Fort Worth. I'm saying was because they are just moving, and I'm very disappointed, they are just moving to Dallas. And then after I became the president of Smith & Nephew, which is a British company in the orthopedics. And we were the first company to move to Clear Fork in Fort Worth. It was in 2015. And that's an amazing, for the one knowing Clear Fork, it's an amazing business and commercial area. And that was really nice. And then after, I became the CEO of one of the leading company in animal health called Virbac. And we were in Fort Worth for different reasons. I moved the company close to the airport. But again, I'm very close to the city of Fort Worth. I love it. And I will finish with one thing that Rachel knows very well. I think in July or in August, we will make sure that you will be able to see a very nice documentary about Fort Worth. And I will tell you the story. As a consul, I was called in December by somebody working for the French TV. And they said, okay, we have a problem because we wanted to do a documentary about the retiree people living in Florida, like the village where you have only retiree people. And they say we did not get the authorization. So we thought that as a backup, we could do something about Fort Worth, the rodeo, where the West begins. But they said, we are a bit lukewarm. We are not convinced it will be nice. We are still hesitating. So honestly, I spent a lot of time with them in December, educating them on how nice Fort Worth is. And the French TV, just before Christmas, approved the documentary that was done 3 weeks ago. And funny enough, the world is very small. I just learned that Rachel knows the one who is moderating the documentary. She's very famous in France, and she's a friend of Rachel, or she knows Rachel. So Rachel and I think we have been very good ambassadors for the city of Fort Worth. And again, it will be a documentary, a 1 hour documentary in prime time on the French TV in July or August. So I was very proud to be also behind that. But again, in my job as a consul, to be very clear, I'm doing that for free. It's not my job. I have another job as the CEO of Virbac in animal health. But it takes me a lot of time, but it's really very exciting because it's one hand of the job, it's to help the French people living in North Texas. And on the other hand, it's to promote France with the local authority in Fort Worth or Dallas. It's the reason why I met the city mayor of Fort Worth, Parker. I knew before Betsy Price, and that's part of my job also to make sure that French organization can move to Texas and especially to Dallas-Fort Worth. So again, I really appreciate the invitation. Beth, I accept your offer that if you want me to join to your group, I will be more than happy to be part of your attendees. And again, it will be good for me to bridge France with also North Texas. So again, thanks for the invitation. And really, I'm excited and I look forward to work with you guys.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur Fournier. And I will tell you that Fort Worth Sister Cities also helped with Alexandra Alevec and the rodeo project. They were involved as well. So I think this is, it's very, very good that you get to know Fort Worth Sister Cities better, and it's going to be a great partnership with you going forward. Right. So now, let's get back to the program. Welcome to Jenny Mack. She is a local, God, this lighting is terrible. I'm sorry about this. I hate these Zoom things. Anyway, I regress. So anyway, welcome Jenny Mack, local Fort Worth musician known for her talents with the accordion. And if you've ever heard her, she's absolutely fantastic and livens up any party. She also plays piano and composes music, and she performs all over Fort Worth and DFW Metroplex. She is from Texas, from Fort Worth, and she is part of a group of musicians that sort of combine country and Western swing and Americana, hot jazz, and all kinds of international music genres. And I'm sure many of you know the group that she was involved with before, which was the two-time Grammy Award-winning Brave Combo from Denton, Texas. So welcome, Jenny, and I'm going to let you take over from here.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So wonderful to see all of you. I just want to say welcome to the virtual roadshow. Welcome to DeNimes Blues. So today, I'd like to touch a little on some information about Nimes and also get into this wonderful connection between French, and Texas music, covering the spectrum, everything from sounds like to, as a little nod to our program name, here is a piece of music from right here in Fort Worth, Texas, from the Western swing genre, a Bob Wills classic called the Texas Blues. Aha. Well, I heard that only coyote was whining for his mate. I packed my shoes, I took my blues, I left the Lone Star State. I thought that I could ride away, how I could lose the blues. But now I find this Texas soul sticking to these shoes. Getting back, got the Texas blues. Well, now I don't know how it happened when I opened up my mouth. Some pretty girl hoots and hollers and says, hey, aren't you from the South? They laugh at all my how you alls each time I speak, but they're gonna play the Dickens, getting Texas out of me. Well, I'm getting back, got the Texas blues, yeah. Ooh, I'm getting back on the track, got the Texas blues. Ooh. Yeah. All right. So let's get right on in here. I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay. Let's see. Share. All right. Can everyone see this? Okay. All right. So, oh, you know what? Let me go back and redo this really quickly. I forgot to hit the little box that I put a note to remember to do. Okay. Share. All right. Okay, so I wanted to get a little bit into some information about Nimes. If anybody, it's brand new to you and you'd like to know a little about the history, so we have some context. Okay, so right here, it is in beautiful southern France in Languedoc. It's known as a Roman city. And this was during the Roman Empire, there were probably about 50 or 60,000 people living there. And you can maybe see from these photos that the architecture was very heavily influenced by the Romans. So we've got the lovely jardin, like our Fort Worth Botanical Gardens, except without the Roman architecture. And the very famous Roman temple, the Maison Carrée. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Pardon my French, literally, it's not that great yet. I'm still working with Duolingo. They say, I heard a statistic that 15 hours on Duolingo is equivalent to maybe a first semester of a language. I don't know how true that is, but considering how much time we all spend on our phones, maybe it's doing me some good. And I wanted to include this as well. So this is the famous arena in Nimes, and it was built not long after the Roman Colosseum. So you can see, of course, again, the very heavy influence here, but this one is far better preserved, which is just really wonderful, very beautiful. Okay, moving right along, I wanted to get into this very special fact. Nimes is historically very well supported on a textile economy. And we have, you can't see it here, but I'm wearing my very favorite denim jeans. We can thank Nimes for denim. And this is such a wonderful story. So, we think of this denim from Nimes, jean from Genoa. And so which I found was really interesting, that this was a wool and silk blend initially, and then eventually became more of a pure cotton fabric. And in the 1870s, Levi Strauss was creating these really sturdy and durable work pants and what they call the waist overalls. And I loved this quote. Lynn Downey, who is a Levi Strauss historian, said, "Born in Europe, denim's function and adaptable form found a perfect home in untamed America with the invention of jeans." Now, I particularly wanted to talk about that just because it's just absolutely nothing for all of us in Fort Worth to see a businessman walking down the streets of downtown in his jacket and his denim jeans and cowboy boots and cowboy hat. And such a wonderful history there. So with that little note, I wanted to include a cowboy tune that I love called Jingle in My Jeans, which I think is just nice and cute. When a cowboy goes to town and spends his money round, whenever he gets that jingle in his jeans, oh, he'll never learn to save. He's gonna squander to his grave whenever he hears that jingle in his jeans. When that jingle starts to jangle, he'll dance like a bojangle and buy the rounds and wind up feeling just a little bit mean in the morning. Always go to town and spend my money round whenever I get that jingle in my jeans. Aha! When a cowboy goes to town, he'll spend his money round whenever he hears that jingle in his jeans. When that jingle starts to jangle, he'll dance like a bojangle whenever he gets that jingle in his jeans. When there's money in his pocket, he'll take off like a rocket for the nearest bar and spend it foolishly until it's gone. He'll always go to town and spend his money round whenever he hears that jingle in his jeans. It's into town, we'll ramble, we'll shoot the dice and gamble. We'll never stop until our money's gone and our pockets are empty. Cowboys go to town and spend their money round whenever they hear that jingle in their jeans. Aha! Whenever they hear that jingle in their jeans. Oh, no. Oh, a little tribute to the denim from the Western swing crowd. All right. So here is sort of the main focus today. When we think about French jazz and we think about what people might call Western swing or hillbilly jazz, how was it that this was happening around the same time? What were the influences here? So if we go to France, we find that during World War I and World War II, there were about 200,000 African American soldiers that were sent to Europe at this time. 90% of them were from the American South. And so you have these people coming here to France, and these musicians are mixing with French musicians, and they're hearing these sounds that they've never heard before. It was swingy, jazzy, bluesy, and they were exchanging these ideas and learning from one another. And probably one of the great examples, the Harlem Hellfighters, which was a group out of New York. And they had this incredible marching band. And I had loved this story I read that they did this beautiful jazz arrangement of La Marseillaise that the French people just adored. They loved it. So they had never heard their national anthem played this way. After the war, many of the soldiers chose to stay in France. They found that they were very welcome there. They weren't dealing with the same racism that was here at that time in America. And you had this blossoming age of art and music and culture and mixing of ideas, again, with this music brought from these African-American soldiers. Also at that time, this is just a few of them, but there were some American musicians living in France, like Charlie Parker, Eartha Kitt, Sidney Bechet, all jazz musicians and exchanging ideas. And in return, they were recording French music and doing it in their own way, in a jazzy and swingy way. At the exact same time, in the early teens, 20s, 30s, you had these string band musicians. So when I say string band, when you think in the South, it might be composed of a fiddle, a guitar, a banjo, and they played hillbilly music, fiddle music, folk music. When they met African-American musicians, and they were blending this kind of a little bit swingier rhythm and blues, this jazz influence, and blending this also with some European folk melodies, because you had a lot of immigrants in Texas. They were kind of creating this whole new style of music. And some of the early artists that we hear about in Texas and in DFW in particular were Milton Brown and Bob Wills, who Fort Worth is known as the birthplace of Western swing. The site of Crystal Springs Dance Hall was sort of where all of this music came together, and they were very, very heavily influenced, again, by the musicians that they were hanging out with and getting to know. Bob Wills worked in the cotton fields in West Texas and met so many musicians and learned from them and hired them. And he once told this story about getting on horseback and riding 35 miles to hear Bessie Smith sing. So he was, again, really blending the blues and jazz that he was hearing and learning. You also saw instances of, I included a piece here about Avalon, which was a famous jazz song of that time, which was simultaneously being recorded by Milton Brown here in Texas. And then also artists like Django Reinhardt had recorded it in France. So if you've ever heard this one, found my love in Avalon beside the bay. I lost my love in Avalon somewhere along the way. Oh, I dream of him in Avalon from dusk till dawn. And so I guess I'll travel on to Avalon, to Avalon. So again, very heavily influenced by musicians that were traveling overseas. And oh, beautiful. Here's a photo of the Harlem Hellfighters band actually headed back to New York from France. Wanted y'all to be able to see that. Okay, so I had a wonderful opportunity to get to interview Kevin Sue from Frenchie's Blues Destroyers. So I set out really wanting to collaborate with somebody from Nimes or from France and didn't know quite how to do this. And thanks to Beth, she said, well, you know, Kevin lives here in Fort Worth now, and he's from Nimes. We had never met before, so I reached out to him, and we've become friends now and had a wonderful opportunity to sit down with him. So I wanted to be able to play this video for you. He wasn't available to be here today, but it's a fascinating look at his life, growing up in Nimes, his musical influences, because he too was listening to music from America growing up, and brings his own unique blend of the sounds he heard growing up from Europe and also from America. And anyhow, I hope that you all will enjoy this interview with Kevin. Oh, all right. Hello, everybody. I am here with my new friend, Kevin Sue from Frenchie's Blues Destroyers and from Nimes, France. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
You're doing great. I'm doing very well. We're here in my little house with my little cat and la mia nonna. Ciao, nonna. She's watching today. So I'm very excited to have Kevin here. When I found out that we had someone here in Fort Worth from Nimes, he was so gracious to accept an invitation to come here and chat with us about Nimes, about music, about his life, and we're going to play together, aren't we?
Yeah.
It'll be fun. Okay, so talk to me about growing up in Nimes.
Growing up in Nimes. So I am a kid of the 80s. And growing up in Nimes in the 80s was a magical time for me. I had a great family, and you know, being in the south of France, the weather is wonderful. And from my memories, growing up in the city itself, everything was great. School was great. It's a beautiful place. We have some beautiful monuments. We have this big garden called the Jardin de la Fontaine.
Oh.
And it's, I think it was built during Louis XIV or the 15th or the 16th, one of those guys, era. So it's old enough, but it's got these big gardens, and it's got like, it's on a hill. Mm-hmm. And so when I was a kid, you know, nowadays kids, you know, cannot go do their own thing. But when I was little, my parents just told me, come back before sundown. So I would just go venture in the city, and I would go in the gardens and just explore and, you know, be a little boy, you know, just making up stories of, you know, adventures. And, so that was fun. Was also fun is that I'm close enough to the coast. So got to go, you know, in the summer, the beach, but also the rivers. We have a lot of rivers and a lot of countryside. So it was kind of a mix of this living in a city and then also the countryside.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
You had me at Jardin.
Jardin.
Just,
Yeah.
the idea. I grew up here in Fort Worth, and my brother and I mean, we also had a lot of liberty. You know, we just would take our bikes all day long in the summer, and we would run around with some neighborhood kids and play baseball and ride bikes, and but we didn't necessarily have a jardin nearby, but and the rivers and the coast, but we had other beautiful things. So
No, for sure.
It sounds lovely.
I'm all about the countryside. I've always loved the countryside, and I think that's kind of one of the things that are connected for me that I've kind of found in Fort Worth that reminds me a little bit of home.
Beautiful, beautiful. What brought you to Fort Worth? When did you come here?
So I've been in the States for about 21 years now, and I was a typical story of someone that just wanted to live the American dream. I had no plan whatsoever. No plan. I had a guitar and a backpack, a couple $100, and I didn't come to Texas first. I went to California first.
Oh, okay. What part of California?
Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. LA.
And
Awesome.
so I was there, and I was living in a hostel, and I was picking up like newspapers, trying to figure it out, like, you know, find a gig, you know. So I met. That's what the funny story is. I met a guy named Shooter Jennings.
Oh yeah.
And he hired me to be in his band. That's what got everything started. So his dad, Waylon, sponsored me. His family and his business sponsored me as you know, to be able to stay here. So Waylon is from Texas, and everybody in Shooter's band back then, 2 of the guys were from Waco, and 1 guy from Dallas. Now Shooter's from Nashville, but his dad is from Texas, and so right there and then, my best friends became Texans, even in California. So I just knew there was something about being from Texas and me being from Nimes that made sense. It was like a connection that I could feel. And so we eventually toured through Texas and then came back to California. And as much as California was great for me at the time, I just wanted to be in Texas. So I moved around a lot in 20 years. I mean, I lived in Nashville for 8 years. I lived in Oklahoma. I lived twice in Austin, twice in LA, but it was always like brief periods of times and then moving around. And so when I started playing with Jack Ingram, country artist Jack Ingram, started playing with him in 2007, we used to come up here and play Billy Bob's. And we still do once in a while, and there was something about Fort Worth that I enjoyed. And throughout all my travels, every time I've come to Fort Worth, it felt like it was home. So eventually I just decided, it's been about 4 or 5 years now, I decided to kind of be based out of here and call it home. And what's great about it, especially for music, and you know that, is that there is so many places to play, and the community of musicians is very supportive of one of another. And compared to other cities where it's harder to kind of break through just because it's maybe more musicians, so at least it's just not as easy as it is here. I kind of feel like, well, all right, well, what'd you get? And then you start playing, and if you're cool and if you're good, they'll open the doors for you. There's not a lot of politics when it comes to music. It's definitely more open to the arts, and
right.
They allow you to do what you do. So I feel at home here.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So I have never been to Nimes, but I've been researching and trying to learn more about the city, and it does seem like there are a lot of places to play, like blues and jazz venues and festivals. And of course we have this wonderful connection as a sister city. What can you tell me about the music scene there, and also Fort Worth? Are they very similar? Do you get to go home and play your music sometimes, or?
No, I haven't gone home to play. Actually, I haven't gone home in 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. I'm coming, I promise. Well, you know, with the recent events, it hasn't been very easy. Plus, you know how it is. We're busy here, so it's, you know, when you got work going on, often if I can go home, will be Christmas time. But the past couple of years, even during everything that's happened, I've gotten busier than I was before for some reason. So, which is great. So it's hard to break through because I don't want to go home for 1 week. If I'm going to go, I'm going to go 2-3 weeks. If I can, a month. But then, not everyone can afford to do that. The music scene in Nimes, I do not know what the music scene is like in Nimes right now. And that's only because I've been away from home since 1999. Because I moved around before I came to the States. I moved around. So I keep in touch with some of my friends that are musicians, and they're all still playing after all those years. There is a duo that now is doing really good. They're actually coming to the States from my hometown. It's a duo. It's a guitar player named Benoit Nogaret, and the singer guitar player is Mathis Hogg. And they have a duo, and they recorded recently an album. I'm doing promotion for them as well because I really enjoy what they do. They did an album tribute to Doug Watson.
Oh.
Awesome, right?
Wow.
And it's one thing to be able to play the lyrics and to sing the songs, but it's another thing to feel it. And those two together, they have it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're from Nimes, France. So explain to me how
they found a connection to it.
Two dudes from Nimes, France play American music the way they play, and just kind of like what happened to me where when I came here, I got adopted basically into the music scene and became a citizen and became American myself from Nimes. So maybe there's something in the water there, something in the wine. I'm not sure, but Nimes was famous for this music festival in the arena, which we call les Arènes de Nimes. And it was a festival that they had throughout the 70s and into the early 80s. And my dad used to go see bands all the time, and it was mostly American music, American artists. So he saw everybody from Albert Collins, Johnny Winter. I'm naming the Texans right now. And we saw B.B. King and other people, but there was also like across town there was smaller stage and like little clubs, and he got to see all the Chicago blues coming in as well. And so it's interesting that they have a big cultural world there, and especially, in a town like Nimes, I think they have about 130,000 people living there, might be a little more now. It's not that big of a city, but they're very about the arts, and mostly it's regional and local art, so it has to do, like I was telling you about before we started the interview, we still have bullfights in the arena, and we're very close to Spain, so we have this connection with Spain, and we have a lot of flamenco music, a lot of accordion music, and that's good. And so we have this kind of mix of different cultures, and somehow blues and jazz, so Black American music, is also very big into that world. And I think, I don't know too much about it, but I knew that Nina Simone lived in Marseille. She lived in the south of France towards the end of her life, and we kind of appropriated ourselves that music out there. I remember being a kid, fantasizing about American blues, and then we also had television, so we had like American movies and all that. So it kind of makes sense a little bit, and it's a big mix.
So is that mostly how you sort of got brought into blues? Was just being exposed to it, or exposed through your father? And
through my parents and my mom and dad. They're big. Both my parents are big in motorcycles and then music.
Wow.
So I kind of skipped the motorcycle part. Didn't care too much about it. But the music part was really big. So I was telling you about them going to see this big jazz and blues festival, which I think that's what it was called, the Jazz and Blues Festival. And so my dad bought everybody's records.
Wow.
So he had a collection of about a couple of thousand records when I was growing up.
Oh my goodness.
So he grew up like on the Rolling Stones and all that stuff, right? But he also did his research and tried to find out, well, who wrote the songs. So he bought the original records. So I grew up listening to the Stones, but then also Muddy Waters, and then the Animals, but also John Lee Hooker, and so and so. But I was definitely more attracted to the American music itself, and we talked about Texas artists, Texas blues guys, like Johnny Winter was a big influence. That's why I played with the Thumb Picks, because Johnny Winter, and he's from Beaumont, Texas. So, there was always this, and Billy Gibbons and ZZ Top and people like that. And so Texas was always, if you don't know much about French people and their relationship with America, it's funny because there is America, And then
And
there's
then there's
Texas.
Texas.
I mean, I kid you not. So when you go like, oh yeah, I live in America. Oh, where? New York? You know, no. And see, Texas. Ooh. You know, the eyes get big. It's like Texas. And so,
I know. It's wild. So the first time I ever traveled to Italy, I was bringing a Stetson hat for a friend there. So I was wearing one, and then I had this hat case, and everywhere that I went when I was carrying that, I heard two things. They would say, "Ooh, John Wayne," or they'd say, "Una Texana, Texana, Texana." And there are a lot of Western and cowboy cultures in America, and I mean, there's Wyoming and Montana. There's a lot, but everybody went Texana.
I think it's the attitude. I don't know. I guess Texas is good at exporting itself to the rest of the world.
Right.
But I remember when the French delegation came out, and I knew you were helping out. Like I was saying, I think we may have met because I was helping out.
You must have.
And I don't know. I've got tattoos and the beard and everything. So I just put on a button shirt and long sleeves, and I show up when they got picked up at the airport. They said, "Well, come out and we have like a little gathering for them, and maybe you can help. We're not sure." I think they were trying to kind of. It's like, well, okay, we'll see what's up. So I see my mayor and his wife, and so I go say hi to them. And they'd flown, and they're probably a little jet lagged, and so I introduced myself. And as soon as I started talking in French with my accent, because we have an accent there, we're not from Paris, This is an accent that's specific to the South, specific to Nimes. And as soon as they heard my accent, the eyes got big, and it's like, "Are you from Nimes?" And I said, "Born and raised, and I live here. And if you guys need anything, I'm here to help out." And they kind of embraced that, and so we had a beautiful time with them here.
That's wonderful. Oh my goodness.
Which is funny because I dropped out of high school and just kind of did the rock and roll thing, and so years later to be here in Texas and helping out the mayor of my hometown is kind of a
everything comes beautifully full circle.
I know, it kind of feels good. I'm like, all right, cool.
So you mentioned your pick stylings. Johnny, you got that from Johnny Winter. But I was thinking, because I saw you play live and I was blown away. You have a very unique musical style. And
Thank you.
I wanted you to talk about that a little bit. Maybe of course, you mentioned some of your influences, but also what in your own words you bring sort of very uniquely to playing blues music, being from another country and also playing here in Texas. You have a complete unique style of your own, and I wanted to know what you think about that.
Wow. Okay. So let's see. Well, like I said, okay, to go back to growing up in Nimes, France. So like I said, I had at home, I had the American music. Then outside of the home, I had what we have over there. So I grew up with flamenco music as well, which is the best kind of music. I mean, it's haunting. And so I saw people playing that kind of music, and there's also the French music, which is very rich in chords and everything. But like I said, mostly blues and rock and roll was my main influence. But being born and raised in France, I got other styles of music. So for the guitar playing with the picking. So when I came here, I didn't know much. I knew what I knew from growing up. And so, like I said, when I met Shooter and then his dad, then I said, well, I don't know who Waylon Jennings is. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, I don't know. So I got introduced to Waylon by meeting Waylon. And then, then I listened to the music. And so I got introduced to country music, and then particularly Texas country. So Willie and Waylon, of course. But then also, Chris Christopherson is Texan, and then guys like Guy Clark and Towns Van Zandt, and all those guys, they got the blues thing going on. They do, and that picking, and they all play with Guy Clark played with thumb picks and kind of had that thing going on. So I kind of mixed over the years. I kind of mixed what I discovered by listening to Texas music and being here and soaking in the culture. And so it's kind of a mix of years of playing with different bands, and then a mix of being here, and then a mix of what I grew up listening to. So what I do is blues, but I mean, I'm still a French guy, that French American, Frenchican. I came up with that the other day. I kind of like it.
I love that.
I'm gonna have to trademark the term, but so it's a mix of all of, because I think every style of music has, and you know that because I saw you play the other day, and you know you have a very wide range of styles of songs, and but I hear like a common thing, like you have that, you know. I was paying attention. I really enjoyed it, you know. So I think it's kind of how it works. It's like your experience, meaning, but like who you play with over the years, like the places where you have an experience in life, and it's not always just music. It's just kind of like the experience of life and all that. So I'm just trying to do my little thing in this big world, especially in this music world. You know, there's a lot of people doing it, but like you said, when you saw me the other night, we do make a lot of noise for being just a drummer and a guitar and my voice. But you know, it's got that picking thing, and it's kind of like Lightning Hopkins is in there, you know, and just all of that.
It's very unique.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed hearing you. Well, I would love to play some music with you before we jam a little bit.
Any more questions?
Yes, I did. I wanted to say, so you know, Fort Worth is known as Cowtown. It's Panther City. It's Funky Town. It's where the West begins. We sort of have these catchphrases and these nicknames. Is there
I'm gonna be in trouble here.
phrase or a name for Nimes that you know of? I'm just so curious.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. No,
I thought about it earlier. I don't think there is that kind of thing over there.
Sure.
I was trying to think because, you know, she sent me some of the questions before just to kind of see, you know. But I don't know if there's a phrase about Nimes. But as we talked about, we have a big culture in horses, and we call it tauromachie. It's pretty big tauromachie, so the bulls, and we have ranches there. So they're not really like Texas ranches, but they kind of close, and so we have like our own kind of cowboys and stuff. I'm gonna do some research. If Nimes doesn't have a catchphrase, I'm gonna come up with one and make sure to let them know about it. But
So and I'm just learning about everything as well. But this it is nice that this presentation is called DeNimes Blues because of denim.
Yeah, so you know the story about it, right? You know the story behind it. You don't know the story behind denim?
Tell me.
Okay, so hopefully I won't mess it up, but I'm pretty sure this is how it happened. So there was a factory that did the textile for Levi's Strauss, and so they would ship the fabric to make the jeans via Sète, which is the big port in the south, maybe Marseille, I'm not sure. Sète or Marseille was the big two ports, and we ship them to the United States. So when he came up with the name for the jeans that he was making, he called it denim, meaning from Nimes.
From Nimes.
That's kind of the claim to fame that we have, which kind of makes sense why I came to the United States, because the denim is so emblematic to America, and especially, I mean, I know we got Wranglers now and whatnot, but you know, denim, it's cowboys wearing jeans, riding horses, so it kind of made sense that I would come here with that kind of connection, you know?
Yes.
So.
Well, we're glad that you're here in Fort Worth. Would you like to play some music?
Let's do it.
Let's do a song.
Okay.
All right. I have my trusty accordion here.
Look, there's a guitar right here. Perfect.
Oh my goodness. How fortuitous.
And it's left-handed. Perfect. I gotta be careful with the headphone wire. Oh, got it.
All right. So tell us what we're going to play today.
We're gonna do a little blues, since we've been talking a lot about the blues. And I might have to get one ear out so
Sure.
that I sing in tune.
Let's make sure we get this closer to you.
I haven't been known to sing in tune, you know, but kidding. It's a song that actually I wrote. It's a blues I wrote called Maricopa County Blues. I don't know if you know where Maricopa County is.
Arizona.
Yep. And it's about not getting in trouble out there in Arizona. Because they put you in Tent City if you do. Not that I went, but anyway. All right, so we'll do turn around, kicking in with turn around, and then go for it.
Let's do it.
last night, going home to you. Turn on the lights, took me away from good. Last night, I was feeling blue. Last night, on my way to you. Turn on the lights, took me away from good. Take it away. Well, tent city, tent city. Oh, you're bringing me down. Ooh, you're bringing me down. Leave me alone. Got to get back downtown. Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Grazie, Nona. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining
Yeah,
us
thank you for having
again.
me.
We've had a wonderful time here.
It's beautiful.
Definitely be sure to check out Frenchie's Blues Destroyers in town. Thank you for joining us. What
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
À bientôt.
All right. Well, that is the conclusion of my portion of the program. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Fort Worth Sister Cities for the opportunity to share with all of you. And of course, a huge thanks to Kevin from Frenchie's Blues Destroyers for joining me for that little recorded interview. So thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed some info about Nîmes and French music.
Thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you also, Kevin. That was fabulous. Are there any questions and answers for either Jenny or Kevin before we continue?
Where is Kevin playing?
Where? Oh, well, I believe that if you look him up online, I know that he has some social media, so Facebook and Instagram. I'm not sure if he has a website. Let me actually check this out. It looks like
play at Magnolia Motor Lounge a lot.
they do. Magnolia Motor Lounge, Lola's. I know he's played. If you check out www.bluesdestroyers.com, that's also his website. So you can maybe find his schedule there too.
Any other questions? So I did want to contribute one thing. You know, we call Fort Worth Panther City, and I am not that familiar with the history. I think it's probably what, 100, 200 years old. And I do know that in Nimes, their symbol is the crocodile. And it actually, it's a kind of a complicated story, but it was the crocodile and palm tree were on the coins from ancient Roman times. So we're not talking about a couple hundred years ago. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So the story is, dates back much farther than that. But I am familiar with the crocodile and the palm tree. We saw them all over when we went on our trip to Nimes. So that's the only contribution I can make to your question about any symbols from Nimes.
Oh,
But
wow.
so
It looks like Avis has her hand up.
Yes, for Jenny. I was wondering, you may have covered this, but I didn't hear very well, I think, in the beginning with my audio. I'm wondering how you got introduced to the accordion, and do you know a little bit of history about how that instrument became flavorful, in quotes, for French music and even in Texas music, especially Texas swing and blues?
So I got into the accordion when I was just before my 7th birthday. So I asked for one for my birthday, and the reason it was even on my radar is a man played at my elementary school. So I went home and told my parents I wanted an accordion, and they probably thought I was crazy, but they rolled with the idea, and I loved it and never put it down. Um, Honestly, I wish I should delve more into the accordion's history in Europe and in Texas. One thing I do know, which is kind of interesting, that there is a Chinese instrument, I think it's called the sheng, that dates back to maybe the 12th century, which is a very similar kind of early version of what would become the accordion later on. So I do know that it's largely popular in Italy and Eastern Europe and in France and Germany. Of course, it's all over Europe. And then I think that maybe I would love to know when it really came here and was popularized. I just assume maybe from South ports and immigrants coming into Texas, why we have such an amazing large accordion culture here. But it's a very good question, and I would like to learn that myself. Delve more in.
And just a follow up, I don't know this, but is it considered a wind instrument, a string instrument, or percussion?
That is a really good question too. So it's sort of this hybrid. I always like to joke around that it's if a saxophone and a piano had a baby in a way. It's a reed instrument, because when you think of the piano, you have the mallets on the strings. Well, that isn't happening inside of the accordion, yet you have the keys. So you have a keys instrument, but it's a reed instrument really at the heart of it. So you have to put air through the reeds for it to work. So the keys don't there are no mallets on strings or anything inside. And it looks like a typewriter inside or something. It's pretty wild.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
well, this has been a true Texas and French experience, learning about music and our own French roots with it. Before we close out, because it is almost 8 o'clock, before we close out, I want to encourage any of those of you who are not familiar with Fort Worth Sister Cities and the Member Circle of Giving to consider joining and supporting Fort Worth Sister Cities. It's an incredible group of very active individuals interested in exposing themselves to international events, learning from other international minded people. And it's a very active group that's also interested in expanding global relationships for peace. And especially when you consider what's going on in the world right now, it's more important than ever. So please do learn more about Fort Worth Sister Cities. You can reach out to anyone in the group, go to the website to learn more. And for those that are already members of the Giving Circle, thank you so much for everything that you do. And also want to thank Rob Napier and Andréane Anise for leading the first youth exchange to Nimes since the pandemic. They're leaving on March the 12th. And I know Robert is here. I don't know if Andréane is here, but thank you both so much. And we will be very well represented by you and Nimes.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to going. So appreciate all your support. Thank you.
I can't tell if that's a baseball cap or a French beret. Okay.
It's a Swiss baseball cap. There you go.
Well, you look beautiful in both, so you know
Thank you.
you can exchange them one for another depending on the day.
There you go.
But thank you all very much for coming. And if you did enjoy this event, please learn more about Fort Worth Sister Cities. It's incredible. Next month, we're going to be doing an Italian road show with Monica Marchi, I guess she's pronounced, our resident Italian educator and expert from Reggio Emilia. She was born and raised there, but now she calls Fort Worth her home. So thank you again. And Beth or May or anyone else, do you want to close us out? Say anything in addition to what I've said?
I would be glad to close this all out and just thank Jenny so much for doing this. I know you and I'm so sorry Mary Helen couldn't be with us tonight. Got stuck in Tucson, but thank you so much for doing this. And I learned something. So it was a great experience. And I'll have to send a message to Kevin as well. And Honorary Consul Francois Fournier, we look forward to having you involved in our program going forward. Great job, everybody. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you next month with Italy. Bye.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bonsoir. Bonsoir tout le monde.
Thank you.